Howdy, y'all. How's it going? I am busy today, but happy to be here with you. I am quack quack. Yeah, that's right. Quack quack. I'm kind of doing so many different little things at once and multitasking today, and it's been hard to focus, but not bad. I'm once again happy to be here. I moved my desk around just like 4 inches. I moved my desk like 4 inches, and it unplugged my microphone. It messed with my camera. It did so many things, but it's okay. We're making it work. And I've also been trying to figure out how to properly do background music on this stream so we can listen to it constantly. Can't figure it out, but you know, that's okay. Luckily, this one's kind of fading out. But good to see y'all. Hello, Joe or Jose. Hey, David. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Zazu. Hey, Nick. How's it going? I was going to mess with a few different things today. I would love to. Happy Ducky Thursday to you as well. I have a project that I've been messing with, and I was thinking I would try some of the new GitHub stuff on this project that I'm messing with. But I'd love to know what y'all are working on. I am okay. I'm gonna full disclosure. I'm okay. I'm building an app that tracks how often you cry, which sounds more dire than it is. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to like rate cries from 1 to 5 tiers, add tags, have like a little feed of crying. I just thought it'd be kind of fun, and I'm experimenting with React Native because I haven't really messed with React Native much, and it's been very fun. I'm getting somewhere with it. But it sounds like a cry for help, and I want to emphasize I'm okay. I just happen to be making an app that logs how often you cry. And it's been pretty fun. I started it. I don't know if y'all have seen some of the new like app builders out there. Like there's the GitHub Spark one that we talked about last week on the stream, and then I tried messing around with A0. There's all these different like app builders. And so I've been kind of poking around, and one of them, A0 specifically does React Native. So I was able to have it like scaffold out just like basically the buttons. And that was helpful for me to then like take that output and then do my own code with it once I was able to see how it was kind of structured. Because React Native is like React, but just different enough that I needed a little bit of help. But anyway, that's where I'm working. Cryometer, you are okay. Yes, once again, I'm okay. But yeah, I can show you the app I'm working on. 1 second. I will do all of the zooming things and stuff that you're supposed to do before you start a stream. But alas, this is where we're at right now. Okay, cool. So I'll show you, and you can see my little app here. And let's get rid of some of these things so it's easier to see. Yeah. Okay, so this is what I have so far. It's very, very basic. I've done the basic styles. But you can log a new cry. You could say when it happened, so it does like the time right now, or you could say like an hour ago or something. You could say that how intense it was. I want to say that I was overwhelmed. Oh, why is scrolling not working? Uh-oh. Oh, is it because I'm too zoomed in? I'm also learning about views versus scroll views. also wait, I have to have the ducks judging me. Here we go. There they are. Um, you can add a photo. Right now that is just a placeholder. I have a placeholder crying child. And then what made you cry? The pressure of it all. Yeah. And then when you save it, it appears in this little feed right here. So here, I'll zoom in again. And then you can hide the photo and add things, and then you can filter and sort by the number of tears or like the time period, um, what caused you to cry. And then you could also add more tags. So let's just say hormones, friendships, vibes. I don't know. You can have whatever you want here. And you could also say, like, oh, I want to get rid of one of these. And then you can also look at your statistics for like your average crying intensity, frequency, the intensity distribution, your most used tags. And then you can also export it to a CSV file to send to your therapist. That's kind of fun, right? Once again, I'm okay. I just thought it'd be fun to make an app that tracks how often you cry. And so this has been my React Native project of the week. I started it this week, and it's been fun. I have learned a lot, and I still have more to learn. And luckily, I have all of these AI companions who are very desperate to help me. So that's been wonderful to work with. But before I get into it, what are y'all working on? I would love to know. I would love to know the deets. I would love to know some of the projects you're working on because it's fun to look at my projects, but I wanna hear about yours, even if it's work related or something like that. I feel like most folks these days are working on like interesting portfolios or something. Um, One second, I just got messages from work, and I'm gonna close that Slack. Oh, debugging Redis issues. Fun. Maybe I'll put Redis as one of the tags for why one might cry. uh, Man, I haven't had to touch Redis in a really long time, long enough that I'm okay with it. Um, Azure pipelines also worth crying about. Ooh, yeah, pretty much anything DevOpsy is cry worthy, I think. Like figuring out how like everything is moving and hosting and queuing and all that jazz. Ugh. Yeah, exactly. Tasks go into the queue, but sometimes they don't come out. Yeah. Ooh, not as exciting. Hey, this is very exciting. You built your digital garden in Astro. That's awesome. And an AR app? I haven't dabbled in AR yet. It seems very neat, and it's like one of those technologies that I've been wanting to mess with. Augmented reality, for those who don't know what AR stands for. But that's really cool. Take out the not exciting or in any way impressive. That's very impressive. The fact that you did it is impressive. Working on an agentic modern screen reader proof of concept. Ooh, that's cool. That's very, very cool. I feel like that's something that could be very useful for people. Oh, and it's a browser extension. Sick. Tie between figuring out making a GitHub Pages site for my blog and working on scripts to make vulnerability management more useful. Ooh, what a tie. Those are very different. But I love it. I've been wanting to mess with GitHub Pages more. I admit I use it for some projects and then I use Netlify for other ones, depending on like how complex things go. But I feel like GitHub Actions has only improved over time, and there's a lot of really interesting things you can do with it. So I'll have to check it out. A friend and I are working on a Discord bot that leverages LLMs. Ooh. So like, do you chat with the bot about specific things? Or is it like a Q&A bot, a search bot? I would like to know. I'm also working on an app to share music with people, React front-end using Flask on the back end to learn Python, and we'll deploy it to AWS. Wow. You're feeding a lot of birds with one scone. I like it. I'm trying to use less morbid phrases now that I have a child. Building expressive code plugins. What does that mean? Expressive. I can't tell if that's a technology or an adjective or both. I'm curious. I slowed down that I have a full-time job. Yeah, having work is a good thing, but it can definitely take away things. Oh, so you chat with the bot about stuff. Cool. Nice. Yeah. That balance is tough. That balance is very, very tough. Hello, welcome. I'm running in circles on Nest.js. Oh no. Depend dependency circles in general, not my idea of a good time, but unfortunately a necessary evil. Very boring URL shortener and more exciting wins tracker. Ooh, I like both of those because I feel like you could connect those both. I have a URL shortener myself, and actually here I'll pull it up in case anybody wants to see, because I think that it has saved it has saved me so much time that's like minor but great, that I highly recommend people make a URL shortener. Where mine is, I'll share my screen really quick. If you don't have one, um, you could go to cast.run/shortener. This one is mine, and it uses Netlify, and that's it. So Netlify redirects. This is the only file that's really required in there. If I zoom in a little bit more, uh, this redirects file, you basically just say, this is the route that I want, and this is what I want it pointed to. And there you go. So like the domain name that I connected to is cast.run. And so if I go to cast.run/w9, cast.run/w9, it goes to my W9 generator app that you can get. Kind of fun. And using it just for things that I hit regularly, like Google Docs that I need, or Etsy shops I want to go to, demos I've built, stuff like that, has been so handy. And once again, it's just a redirects file and a domain name. It's so nice. And so that's awesome that you're building a URL shortener, because I think it is a very handy tool to have. Hardest part of making a URL shortener is finding a nice short domain name. Yeah, that's very true. You end up having to just do kind of like one of those funky, less expensive TLDs, top level domains, where cast.run, I think it cost me like $2 a year. It's not too bad. I was like, wow, this is exciting, but somehow I have this project already started. Fork it, clone it. I mean, it's a weird one to clone because it's just all of my short URLs. But anyway, again, just redirects file. Let's see, what else are you building? Also, once again, your wins tractor, Siobhan, that's awesome. Expressive code is it's a syntax highlighter. Oh, cool, nice. Let's see. I liked the browser extension you created. Have you thought of working on an operator browser AI project? What do you mean, operator browser? That's not a term I know. It sounds interesting though. Let's see, how does using Python for data structures and algorithms benefit problem solving and efficiency in MNC level applications compared to other languages? What do you mean by MNC? I'm learning all these terms today. MNC applications. Let me look up what that means. Multinational corporations? Is that what you mean? Let me know, but I'll attempt to answer because I'm not sure. I think that Python right now is the most popular language out there. Like especially with all of the AI stuff and LLMs and all the data science and everything around that, Python has passed up JavaScript for the first time this past year, which is wild. It's passed it up in popularity because JavaScript has such a low barrier to entry. And granted, JavaScript and TypeScript are both like second or third place, if I recall. And so they could probably combined do some passing. But anyway, Python is wildly, wildly popular. And so having Python as like the baseline for your data structures and algorithms. It's helpful both for knowing the language, but also using it to understand the concepts of sorting, big O, all that computer sciencey jazz. Um, so yeah, but I mean that's a very generic answer because the ultimate answer for everything, it depends. It depends is the answer for everything. And so if if your organization uses Python, great. It's a popular language and chances are you can take those skills to another job or to another application at some point and it's probably going to work. You could probably do that with JavaScript too. You could probably do that with Java too. There's a lot of languages that can be applied to so many things that I don't want to ever be prescriptive on what language you use for a given thing because you could say yes, it is the best for this or yeah, you should definitely use this, but it's going to depend on your use case. Um, One gotcha is that with using Python is that the Pythonic way of doing things sometimes doesn't exist in other languages. True. And I think that's where it's valuable to have some breadth and to understand like, oh, this is a Python specific thing, this is a Rust specific thing, this is a whatever, whatever. What I personally like about Python, I haven't professionally done Python in a long time. I write it like little scripts, but I haven't built big systems with Python in oh my word, it's going to be a decade soon. Oh my gosh, it's been more than a decade. I'm old. But anyway, I love how it just works. There's a lot of magic that Python does and things that it handles for you. That's lovely. Where then you go to another language and then you're like, oh, I have to do this from scratch. Or I have to import a library that is a whole other thing. Anyway, so once again, it depends. That is the very, very short and long answer to that question. When you need a range in JavaScript. But you can get a range from HTML, pass things in. Again, that's the different way of doing it. Let's see. This person is testing a new Dependabot support for Docker Compose file. Ooh, neat. Again, the DevOps stuff, that is a hard thing to like test and mess with. All the respect, it's not my favorite thing to do. Good luck. I hope you get it. Use TypeScript for everything. TypeScript is a blessing and a curse. I mentioned the app that I'm building, and I'll pull it back up. I like TypeScript a lot for the linting. Like when I'm breaking up a giant file into smaller components or when I'm changing certain things, it's really nice to be told, "Hey, this is wrong," or "Hey, you need to fix this." But it's also so verbose. So what I've been doing, I admit, for a lot of my projects, including the one that I will live code in a little bit, I start with like a TSX file, like a TypeScript JSX syntax, use it to like do all the configurations, then change it to JSX and get rid of all of the types because it's just annoying enough that I don't like it very much, but also the linting is so nice. I'm torn. I should just keep it as TypeScript. Eh, what can you do? But let's see. As a student, I'm very confused about data structures and algorithms, so I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions. Oh man, you're not alone. Don't worry. And luckily, congrats on studying all of this and getting as far as you have to be able to ask these kinds of questions. It only gets easier. I promise. Like, especially when it comes to DSA stuff. Like, it's really good to know. I personally think, and some folks might disagree with me on that. I think it's particularly good as a student to understand how these things work. But luckily, in your day-to-day professional development, you probably will never have to implement merge sort or do something that like that low level. I think it's really nice to understand how things work, like understand the difference between recursion and loops and why you might want to do certain things for efficiency reasons. But don't worry. Once you're done with school, you'd never have to really worry about that again, unless you're doing something research oriented or heavy. Once again, it depends. Good luck. You'll do great. Let's see. Dropping the types after doing the work is a 10 out of 10. I know. I sometimes you just want to move forward without being yelled at, you know? Uh, some might argue that TypeScript is pretty much a linter. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. Oh, unless you want to pass an interview. That's true. Data structures and algorithms do appear in a lot of interviews, particularly earlier in your career, which is good because you're learning it as a student and then you'll get an early career job. But I do sense a shift away from that being used as much in interviews. Not a ton. Unfortunately, it's a whole thing in interviews, but the shift is happening. Oh, hi from Florida. I'm always confused about data structures. Andrea is an awesome professional developer who writes blogs, does awesome content. She streams on Fridays on this channel for Open Source Friday. And hey, she's also always confused about data structures and has a job. What a concept. You just got to pass the interviews. Don't let it take up too much of your brain space unless it has to. But once again, I do think that there is a shift in the industry away from using data structures and algorithms as interviews for roles. To be clear, I see there's questions about that. I'm seeing the shift away from those and more towards practical design thinking. Granted, once again, your mileage may vary. It depends. Disclaimers. But I think particularly in the age of ChatGPT and stuff, I think a lot of interviewers are realizing, oh, this person can just look up the question and get the exact answer because it's always the same algorithm every single time and just say it. But at the same time, I can see people are trying to figure out, okay, how do we see how this person thinks a little bit? How do we know that they could code something a little bit more practical or do something else? Once again, it depends. It depends so much on the companies. Let's see. I'm seeing a whole lot of comments on that. How much do I need to study data structures and algorithms, like the level of questions, array, linked list, tree graph, all of those things, study them. Because here's the thing, I will say, like Microsoft, for example, GitHub is owned by Microsoft, all this disclaimer, yada, yada. Microsoft always asks about binary search trees. I have yet to meet a person doing a technical interview at Microsoft who hasn't been asked about binary search trees in some way or another. So if you ever interview with Microsoft, you should know that. Trees and graphs. I have seen, lots of variations on depth first search and breadth first search, graph traversal. These are things that, like, you should know for these interviews. I'm sorry that you have to know. I think that they're not the best ways to interview people. Is there really a metric for testing someone's ability outside of being able to DSA questions? There is, but it's like, I could rant about this for a long time. So I'm trying to maintain being professional on a corporate channel here. There's a lot of better ways to test how someone develops. And I think that doing more practical interview questions that are applicable to a specific role are better. It's harder to do at scale. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people are trying to solve right now as they hire, being like, okay, how do we be fair to everyone, give people good assessments that help us understand, can they do this job well, or could they do this job well on different teams if it's a larger organization? I've found that at startups and smaller companies, they tend to be more practical. And so, for example, One of the startups that I know who is hiring for a Ruby developer, it specifically asks questions. What are your Ruby experiences? What have you done? Look at this Ruby code. Do you see what the issue is? Let's pair program on this Ruby problem. There you go. Asking about data structures is a lazy way to try and interview engineers. And unfortunately, it's the most popular way still. I don't think that it should be the most popular way, but it just is. And so it's a thing that you should study and know, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have to do it forever. You have to get your foot in the door, get a job, and then get the practical experience. As a student, how much time should I spend with data structures and algorithms? You should know it. Because once again, unfortunately, you will be asked about it. I think that you should practice leet code questions, like hacker rank, leet code, those kinds of things. I have found that what I've seen, and once again, take everything with a grain of salt. I'm just one person, but I have been like both interviewing people, seeing how people interview people, and doing this for a while. Typically, the leet code medium problems are a really good baseline for what you'll see in a lot of job interviews. So if you can do like, it's going to sound like a lot. If you are able to do 30 to 40 leet code medium problems without too much assistance, you will probably be okay in a lot of job interviews. Once again, take everything with a grain of salt. Please don't take this as a guarantee. I cannot promise things, but that is my general baseline guidance there. Do leak code and GitHub streaks consider for interviews for an experienced developer? I don't see that happening much. I do know some employers look at your GitHub streak. I don't think that's as common as it might have been in the past. I've never seen an employer look at lead code. I think that's better practice for you yourself. But I do see people occasionally look at your activity on GitHub if you don't have work experience, because then they're like, okay, well, do they code somewhere else? This is where open source contributions can be very helpful. Okay, it's Friday for us. Oh, yes, it's Friday and late. If you are if it's Friday for you, that means it's very late in the day. But have a great day. We're going to try to be more time zone friendly and add another time zone for you. But there's another time zone at 10:30 a.m. GMT if you ever want to tune into this stream at that time. And then we're going to work on an APAC friendly time zone. I know 30 to 40 lead code questions. It's a lot. It's a lot. Also, yes, Tommy, go ahead and ask a question. But it's a lot of questions, but I think that is like solid practice for entry-level roles. Granted, once again, it depends on the company, depends on what you're going for. If you're going for something that's more of a small company, a startup, so something like that, you probably don't need that many because they tend to ask more practical questions like about React, about building a Python thing, about setting up an API, that sort of thing. But if you're going for a large company, they do tend to ask these sorts of leet code heavy style questions where I interviewed, when was this? Before I joined GitHub. I think it was early last year, maybe the year before. I have a decent amount of experience, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I've been in the industry now for more than a decade, and they still asked me lead code questions for a role that was relatively high level at a very large FANG company that I will not name, and I'll leave it at that. The role was supposed to be for like a leadership principal level role. I did have more advanced questions later, but their initial screening was a palindrome checker. I had to write a function that checked if a string was a palindrome or not. Which I remember being like, I can do this and I will do this, but this is not practical for the job. But because it was a very large tech company, they were like, this is the screening that we do in this org, and you have to do this question to get to the next step. So there you go. Do they not know who you are? No, they don't. That's okay. Most people don't. Let's see. What is this question? One more question. Is AI going to take the place of developer role? Someday we might laugh at me answering this question this way, but I can very easily say no right now. I don't think it's going to replace developers anytime soon. I think that it's going to replace certain tasks that developers have to do. And there's a lot of power coming out. Again, I work at GitHub. Copilot has been spectacular for me, um, and all of these different AI tools. That being said, they still need a human to guide things because they only have so much context. You have so much more context in your head than you think for how something should work. And so I don't think you have to worry about AI replacing you anytime soon. Let's see, what is this question? If you're working for a non-tech company for about 5 years and you kind of sorted things out, programmed a big program on your own, does that mean you're good for looking at other jobs? Oh yeah. First of all, don't call yourself it's not like real tech company. If you're doing the tech, you're doing the tech. Like whether you're working at like a food company that happens to run a website or you're working at like a hardcore tech company that only builds software, you are working in tech. And you are probably good for looking at other jobs at most companies because companies don't. I think that there was a time where they looked at like the prestige of your resume being like, oh yes, that person worked at an Amazon or whatever, fancy. But I don't think that happens as much anymore. It's a lot more like, what are the specific tasks that you did? So when you're setting up your resume, it sounds like you did like a really big program and stuff at your company. Describe that. Do like the situation, task, action, results, the STAR method on your resume and be clear about like, this is the big thing that I built. Here's how it impacted the business. Here's some numbers so that people can see that you are building these things. Let's see. What's your opinion on using free code camp for a source of learning for new languages? I'm asking because some people on Twitch have told me not to trust it for learning new languages. I think free code camp's awesome. I love free code camp. I genuinely think it's great. And like once again, your mileage may vary. I think this is where it depends on you as a developer. Some people really prefer learning from books. Some people really prefer learning from lectures online. Some people prefer written tutorials, whatever. But free code camp is spectacular. I think it's such a wonderful resource in the world to have. Like I think everything should be free. Once again, I work at GitHub and open source is wonderful. But I think it's a wonderful, wonderful resource. And they have so many free courses and tracks and things. And you should definitely take advantage of it. I think it's amazing. Huge shout out to Free Code Camp. I think like once again, it depends on you. Whenever people are like, don't trust that resource, try it yourself first. Because chances are it exists for a reason, you know? Are there any other questions? This has been very interesting and we haven't actually coded yet, but I also want to make sure that y'all are prepping. I know how tough job hunting can be and especially as a student and especially in weird climates. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we can get into coding on things. Hey, sweet pepper, how's it going? Okay, so I'm going to start pulling up my screen, and we'll try working on something. The app that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I once again want to emphasize, as silly as it sounds, I'm okay. I'm building an app that tracks how often you cry because I thought it'd be fun, practical, and yeah. Anyway, I'm going to I'm building it with React Native, and it's been a very interesting learning experience. Got you singing for a sec? Nice. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna share my screen. Hey! So this is the app. Once again, it's silly. I'm not making this as a cry for help. I'm making it because I'm amused. That's right. We're all crying in some corner somewhere. So in the app, you can log a cry. You can rate what the cry was. I'm going to do. It was a 1-star cry, a small one. I also need to fix the scroll view. and I'm going to say that it was because of vibes. What made me cry? Things in general. You know, and then save it. Now I'll zoom back in. Once again, I need to fix the scrolls view. But then you have a little feed of all the crying. You have ability to optionally add a photo, and then you can filter and sort all of your cries by like the intensity of it all, when the time period was. You could say, okay, I only want to see cries about vibes and everything, and it'll filter and sort and show all that. It's been kind of fun, right? It's cute. And you can add different tags in here, manage your tags. You can look at your statistics for the total cries, the average intensity, the distribution, how many you have today, this week, this month. It's kind of it's a silly app that I was kind of like, wait, this is becoming kind of practical. I might actually use this. And plus you can export it to a CSV file, a spreadsheet, and send it to a therapist or a concerned friend. Kind of fun, right? Yeah, yeah. And it's been a good React Native learning experience. uh, Let's see. I genuinely dislike web development because of all the wild tool choices and having to learn all that syntax. What's a good, simple React stack I can try to build my silly ideas? This is my first time using React Native, so I'm going to say full disclosure, not React Native, because it's very new to me. It's been kind of hard. If I admit, this has taken me way longer than it would have if I were just building a plain old website, but what can you do? I think that if you want to just start building, I would use Astro personally. Astro has been such a handy framework for me where I can optionally add React or optionally add Vue, optionally add whatever. Send my crying app to my boss. I should. And I'll plop this in the chat. Astro has been a really nice framework to learn where it feels very native. Like you can just do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then pepper in whatever frameworks you want. Their docs are good. I do recommend it. The new Create TanStack router app looks promising. I do want to check that out. I haven't played with TanStack yet. As someone who loves plain old vanilla CSS, HTML, JS with a sprinkle of frameworks, yes. No, it's so nice, y'all. My blog is built with Astro, which once again, not trying to show my own stuff, but here we are. My blog is built with Astro, and truly everything is just HTML, CSS, a dab of JavaScript for the links changing color, and then all of my blogs are written in Markdown. And it's nice. It's nice to just have that. And if I want to add React or something more, I can. So, like, if you go to my newsletter page, which I'm going to plop in here as a shameless plug, please subscribe to my newsletter. It's weekly and fun. You can look at people's opinions of my newsletter, and it's like this was more of a JavaScripty little module, this component in here, but it's just the plain stuff. And also, if you click at the bottom, it is open source, and so you can use this as a template for whatever you'd like. Anyway, plug finished. I recommend Astro. I promise I'm not paid by them or anything. I just genuinely really like that framework. But yeah, anyway, crying app. That's what I'm working on. When the MVP is done, you need to add a cries wrapped. Spot a cry wrapped? That's hilarious. I should. I've done it. It's so basic right now. It doesn't even save your entries. Like it's using just like local state. Like if I refresh the page, those two entries will be gone. I'm purely building out all the scaffolding of the UI first, and then I'll make it have like actual backend things and stuff. And I want to figure out a way to import cries too, if someone needed that. I don't know. A scope creep. I just gotta get the basics done. How many languages do you recommend to master at least? You will never master languages. I shouldn't say that. You might. I'm not a master of JavaScript, and I've been using JavaScript since I was 13 years old. I am not 13. I'm much older than that. I don't think you ever truly master a language. Just be willing to learn it pretty well. I would say there's no real number for the number of languages that you should know. Unfortunately, it just kind of is what it is. You should understand the languages that you might come across in a particular type of job. Like, let's just say you want to do a full stack development role where you do JavaScript and Ruby. You should know the nuances between JavaScript and Ruby enough that you can get by. That doesn't mean that you need to master JavaScript and Ruby. You can always use the internet to solve a lot of problems. There are some syntax things in CSS where I know the syntax. I Google the answers or a problem that I have, and I find my own blog post that I wrote of the issues. You will never fully remember everything. Chances are, maybe you have a magical brain. So languages that I recommend to master, 0, because I don't think one ever truly masters a language. Programming or spoken, honestly. Let's see, what's your go-to backend framework? I've been going back and forth on that. That's a pun. Ha ha ha. I've been going back and forth. So I've been wanting to play with Laravel more, like the PHP side of things, because I feel like a lot of React frameworks really, or web frameworks in general, really want to be PHP, and so I've been like leaning towards dabbling with that a little bit more. Um, I like Ruby on Rails. I like Django for Python. I know that that's like the older one and more people are using Flask, but Django was really nice to work with. Node and Express. I kind of use the tool that fits the job. I don't really have a go-to one. If I can avoid it, I would love to just do like front end with a dab of serverless and not touch back end as much as possible, but that's just me personally. I use Django at work. Nice. Yeah, it's great. I like your comment on mastering languages. Know it well so that way you recognize what's needed, even if you get stuck. Exactly. Yeah, because there are times where there are times where you're going to need a language and do a specific task, and you're just like, I know that it has this ability, or I know that it tends to get stuck here and there, and that's where you do the Googling, you do the co-pilots and all that jazz, you know? Well, hello. Okay. According to you, which one is best, .NET or a Java developer? It depends. It depends. It depends on what you're doing. Both are so popular. Java and .NET aren't going anywhere anytime soon. I'm so sorry that I can't give you a concrete do that one, but they're both very good, and they both are very common and popular. So it's hard to say which one is the best because they both exist and are very popular in the world. So I've been doing a whole lot of talking on things. I am going to touch some code, but you know, we'll see how far we get. .NET is best. Okay, there you go. Someone says .NET is best. Follow the stranger. I'm zooming in on the code because, in case you missed it, hey, guess what? This is a GitHub channel, so I should probably plug a GitHub thing. We came out with a new model this week. And I want to use it, and I'm pretty sure I do that in here. Configure code completions. Change completions model. Aha. So normally the Copilot codex, like the one that Copilot uses for code completions, is a variant on top of GPT 3.5 Turbo. And now GPT 4.0 Copilot. Oh, was that it? Oh, that was nice. Cool. That's how you change the model, everyone. You can, wow, that happened way faster than I expected it to. Okay, configure code completions and then change completions model, GPT-4o Copilot preview. Haha. Now that is the new thing. And I'm going to paste the post about it and also share my screen to show what that looks like. It is the new code completion model that Copilot can use now, and you can enable just like I just showed you. It's all fancy, and you can use it on the Copilot free tier if you have that. Excuse me. You obviously can do it on the paid tiers too, but it is great. And there's a video showing exactly what I just did. So check out the new model. That URL is not cute, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's how you enable it. Long story short, it's meant for better fine tuning. It has a bunch of additional training for all programming. There was, oh wait, I can just read. Over 275,000 high quality public repositories. That's a whole lot of public repositories and over 30 popular programming languages. So whether you do use a .NET or a Java or a Python or a JavaScript or what have you, this model is a good thing. And I've now earned my salary. I just enabled the code completions, and I guess it's time to mess with it. So with my app right now, once again, I used a scaffolding tool to get it set up, and it's baseline generally working. I want to improve this statistics modal. Oh, I actually want to improve this this whole crying logging thing, so that way I can scroll in it. I want to import I want to improve pretty much everything, but we're making it happen. And so we can dabble with some of that, shall we? How do you see software development evolving as AI takes on more of the coding process? You know, I often say, I'm going to sound so philosophical and snobby. So snobby. Software development is like maybe 20% coding. So much of it is just thinking and communication and managing requirements and stuff. AI is really helpful with the coding parts of things and not as helpful with all of the other tasks. And so I do think that as software development changes and morphs, humans will be able to do a whole lot more of the interesting thinking stuff and less of the repetitive task stuff. That being said, right now, I think Copilot is aptly named. You are the pilot. It is the Copilot helping you along. And I don't see it doing any mega changes, replacing jobs or anything anytime soon. Personally. Take it all with a grain of salt. Hello, I met you way back at a Clarify hackathon. Oh my goodness. I worked at this company Clarify in 2015 and 2016. Wow. So, hello, Jay. It's good to see you. I am doing well, and I hope you're doing well too. How have you thought about your career progression since you've been a part of so many roles? It's been fun. It's kind of hard to answer that question without specifics, so you can add more questions in there as you want. This is going to be a bit of a longer answer, so I'll try to shorten it so we can get. I don't have to code today. I showed you the model stuff, right? But anyway, I think my career progression has been good. So for some context for those who don't know me, I've been working at GitHub since September. So it hasn't been quite 6 months yet, but it's been a short while. Before that, I was mostly working at startups, occasional bigger companies, but mostly working at startups. I was an early employee at Venmo, which was bought out by PayPal. I worked at Clarify after that. I was doing mostly dev advocacy then, and then I was kind of burning out, and then I also wanted to move across the country. So then I worked at a creative agency after that, which was really fun. I really liked doing a lot of the client work and everything. But then the agency was bought out. And so when that agency was bought out, I still liked working with a lot of the people there, but I wanted something else. And so after that, I worked at Amazon. Amazon, for me personally, was not a great time, but I did like that I got to kind of work with developers a little bit more. It was less on like the straight up development work and more on the advocacy style work. Um, I was lured in by a fancy title and a high paycheck, but I was so sad. And then from there, I worked at CodePen. CodePen was awesome to work for. I really enjoyed working on tools for developers and on a tool that I actually used. But being just a software, I shouldn't say just a software engineer, but being a software engineer that wasn't giving talks or interacting with developers as much as I wanted to, I missed interacting with doing that interaction. And so I went to React training after that to teach React full time, give workshops, speak at conferences, that sort of thing. I was traveling full time for that job. I started it in 2019. Guess what happened in 2020? The travel stopped. So I unfortunately they had to lay off all staff at that point, and I went to Netlify after that. And at Netlify, I was back doing developer advocacy, doing a whole lot of coding. It was really great being at the just. I love working with developers and having that be my job, working with developers, especially virtually at the time. I was missing the traveling part, but I was really loving being able to just talk with devs at virtual conferences and everything. I enjoyed that. And then after Netlify, I did some brief stints with startups to working on developer education and with some VC companies. And then and that was mostly like some contracting things, just interesting startup advising things. And one of the startups that I advised needed a CTO, and then I was a part of that startup, and it was a really fun time working at that startup. We loved it. We're working on AI tools before AI got big, and then AI got big, and then developers were like, "We can build the tools that you're building now that ChatGPT is out," and stuff like that. Long story short, we loved building our tools. We ended up open sourcing the tool that we built and moved on from there. Then I did some contracting work, and now I'm at GitHub. So that is a very, very, very brief summary of my career. I have had a great time. I think the thing that I've really learned the most is that I love interacting with developers. I love teaching, and I think that I've been able to apply my experience to every role and kind of have it snowball in different ways. And so yeah, thanks. It has been a really, really good time. And I say all of this not to be just like this is the Cassidy show, but to say that there have been ups and downs. There have been small companies, big companies, various things. I personally really love working at GitHub right now because I get to do streams like this and work with developers like you to build tools and honestly just push open source, because I think open source is the best. Yeah, that is the very, very long answer to how have I thought about my career progression. It has gone in the way that I'm happy with it, and I have no complaints right now. The end. I love conferences, but I hate how much they cost. Oh, I know. I do think that's where, if your company has an education budget, ask or just ask your manager, hey, can you send me to this conference or for a learning and development budget? Most companies do have one of those budgets, and people just don't know to ask, because the networking at these events is so important. The people that you meet virtually or in person make such a big difference in your career. And that's been another big learning for me personally, where I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for meeting so many awesome people. Ooh, another good tip. Yes, try and volunteer if they need help. That's huge. Because let's just say there's a local conference you're already there. It's a good way to volunteer. But if it's not a local conference, sometimes you could say, I volunteer my time in exchange for travel or something. And it's really nice to be able to get that FaceTime if you can. There are options. The travel and the people make conferences so much fun. They really do. And I don't think it's necessary in a career to go to conferences, but I do think that it is such a major plus to have FaceTime and to meet people and do that networking stuff. I feel like networking is like the secret sauce for all career movement, pretty much. I have a question. You're really good at explaining confusing concepts in an approachable way. Thanks. Where can we find you doing more of that? I learned so much about React from some of your older YouTube videos. Would you ever do more of those types of long form teaching videos? I want to do so many teaching videos, but they take so much time to develop, which is why I like live streaming, because then I don't have to edit it. And so there are videos online. If you look me up, Cassidy Williams, there's a Scooby-Doo character and there's me. I'm not the Scooby-Doo character. You will find some. If there's anything specific you want to learn, I would love to help you because I love teaching. I have not made a lot of learning videos lately because I'm a lazy bum and I'm sorry. But I would love to help teach you something because I think that is the most fun thing in this industry. A better tip is to volunteer for the speaker's room. Ooh, early in my career, that's how I met a ton of folks I had no business being in the same room with. I love that idea, though. Yeah, if you volunteer in the speaker room and stuff, then you just meet all the cool speakers. That's so real. One of the conferences that I spoke at relatively recently, I was the MC, and there were so many legit people there where I was like trying not to fangirl the entire time. But I had to introduce them to be on stage. And so I just hung out in the speaker room the entire time and just got like that much more FaceTime. And it was so, so fun. You end up meeting so many interesting people when you are helping volunteer in some way with the speakers, for sure. Anyway, Siobhan, thank you so much for that compliment. I appreciate that you like how I teach things. I would love to teach more. And I should. I just haven't in a minute. Some people say that coding courses on LinkedIn are not worth the penny because of the quality or there's no official certificate. What is your opinion on LinkedIn courses? I disagree with that. And once again, I said it similarly to Free Code Camp. Your mileage may vary. Some people respond to different courses than others. Figure out what works best for you. I read reviews, ask around, decide what you want to do. Try to look at free resources before paid resources if possible, because we live in a time now where there's so many free resources available. And understand your learning style. Where I know for myself, for example, I've been wanting to learn the Korean language for a very long time, totally separate from programming. I tried Duolingo, Lingodeer, various apps, online courses, stuff like that. I could never really stick with it. But I have in-laws who only speak Korean, and so I wanted to speak with them. So I found an actual human teacher and a human course, and that human element made me more accountable, and that is how I've been able to learn a little bit better. Depending on how you learn, you might not like the human aspect because it's too much pressure. Find a video. You might not like following a video because you want to be able to listen to music at the same time. Find a blog post. There's so many resources out there for so many things that I won't ever discredit a coding course of some kind or a certification of any kind, because chances are it's there for a certain type of learner. That being said, I don't think you necessarily need a certificate to know a concept. There might be some jobs where they say you need a certain Azure certificate or something, but I don't think that helps as much as it probably should. I think you could just say, I took this course on your resume, and that will be enough. You don't need a certificate at the end. Yeah. I hope that's helpful. Fighting. Nice. Um, so we made it to an hour and I did not write a single line of code. Great work, everyone. But hey, with rubber ducks, sometimes it really is about talking about solutions and figuring things out. Um, so hello, goodbye. It's been lovely streaming with all of you. We will do more coding next week. We're here every Thursday. There's also more EU friendly time zone at 10 a.m. GMT. There's also so many awesome people in the chat here. You know what a form of networking is? Talking to people in a live chat room and then following up with them. What a concept, right? So, for example, Craig, what awesome advice. If you want to go to a conference, ask for money early in the budgetary year. There's limited money for this, and once it's gone, it's gone. There you go. That's great advice. I wouldn't have thought to do it at that time zone, or at that time period. It's great. Networking is so embarrassing. It can be, but but it's important. It's so important for your career. And actually, I'm going to recommend a book really quick before we head out, because I think that this matters a lot. And what I like about this book in particular, it's called Build Your Dream Network. You can find it wherever books are sold. You know where you buy your books. But this book, Build Your Dream Network by J. Kelly Hoey, is an excellent book on networking. And she very specifically talks about how, like, networking's kind of cringe, but it also doesn't have to be if you approach it in certain ways. And so where she's like, what does a former attorney know about networking? Quite a lot. It's not outdated, slap on a name tag and get working the room guidance. Yeah. Networking can be so many things. It can be a follow-up email. It can be a message in a chat. It can be connecting in a Discord group. It can be just reposting what someone wrote or saying, hey, you did a great job on this blog post. There's so many things. It's about building those connections, and those connections make it so that you come to someone's mind eventually. You build relationships with people. And then let's just say I hear that there's a company hiring for developer advocates in New York City. I can then go through my mental Rolodex and say, these are the people who I know because I met them at this event or they talked about it in this chat who might be interested in this job. And I can send it that way, you know? So anyway, I highly, highly recommend this book. Once again, I'm not paid by this author or anything. I guess I'm paid to stream here, but that's because I work at GitHub. But anyway, this book is very, 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 very helpful, and I highly recommend it. Build Your Dream Network. If you network, you can meet Cassidy IRL and make fun of her shoes like me. Yes. I feel like most people who network with me just make fun of me in some way, which I'm okay with, because that's all the fun. That's the fun of the game. But yay. You've no idea how much you helped. Oh, yay, I'm so glad. Oh, well, great. I'm very happy to help, and I'm here every week. So if y'all want to chat next week, I'll be here at the exact same time. And I promise we usually code, but this was kind of more fun, honestly, because I like helping people with this stuff. Cool. Thank you for sharing the book. You're very welcome. And I will talk to you more very, very soon. Oh, and one last thing. I am speaking at a conference in an hour. So if you want to, speaking of networking, there's a free online conference at thejam.dev. I should have plugged this earlier. Thejam.dev. I'll be there in an hour speaking, and you can network in the chat there and speak more. This recording will be available on GitHub's YouTube page. So when you go to GitHub, github.com or youtube.com/GitHub, this stream will exist. Okay, y'all. It's been fun. I have to prep for my talk at this conference again in an hour and eat a meal. But it's been lovely chatting with all of you. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. You're all lovely. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.